Well, hello, internet land, Facebook, YouTube, and whoever else is watching. Um, it's been a while, and I just thought it would be a good time to hop on and have a conversation with what all's going on. And if you can hear me, let me know. Um, make sure audio is working and everything. But gonna just have a nice, collected, calm chat with you all and a couple of friends. So got Rodney Goodwin in backstage, and Will Keller should be joining us here shortly as well. And just thought it was a good time to maybe try to share some wisdom or a voice of reason, for lack of a better term, and hear from all of you and have some meaningful, civilized discussion amidst all of the madness. So, without further ado, let's get this show going. All right, what's up, everyone? Let me know in the chat if you can hear me, where you're tuning in from, and how you're feeling tonight. Got Mr. Rodney here on the line. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Just syncing this to my Facebook page.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
and anyone watching, share this far and wide with anyone you think might benefit from it. And so yeah, just was cruising along today, and Rodney had the idea of going live tonight, and I was like, you know what, man, let's do it, because he and I have been chatting for the last couple of days, just because all this crazy shit going on, and you know. Lots to talk about, lots to observe, and out there in the psychic weather, quite the
Yeah.
shitstorm. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot to get into and look at it from different angles. But I mean, shit, where to even begin, right? Got all these different events happening, and then there's the reactions to the events, which to me is the bigger, the more important thing, right? Because a single event is a single event. It happens and then it's over. But we're days later, and there's just still all these echoes, ripple effects out there in the ether, and people are kind of losing their fucking minds out there. So yeah, what do you make of that, man?
Yeah. I mean, all the world's a stage, right? I mean, that's. I mean, these events that come up. It's like they're going to hit and they're going to hit hard, and it's all relative to how much as an individual you have really come out of the programming of being sourced out in your own own core intelligence. And this is in context to how we're navigating things through all of this. I mean, this is really just the beginning, stages or birth pains or whatever you want to call it, of what's going on within the ethers in context to the energy that's being really really amplified right now. And we're going to continue to see these type of things. It was funny because I was talking with a friend of mine about a week ago, after I put out that last video that I did. And I was saying that there's something brewing in the ethers. I could feel there was something big coming. I could feel it. And it was like there was an event getting ready to happen. And it's kind of like once you start like having this kind of a dialogue with in with your own internal self, and your emotional intelligence begins to expand, and you begin to have some clearing going on in context to all the programming that's happening. You feel the emotional intelligence is more of a knowing than it is words or anything else like this. And so this is kind of where we need to get as wizards, to be able to actually be able to feel that knowing, which is kind of what the Aquarian energy is all about, really. When we're talking, astrology and that type of thing. So you want to be able to feel into things, but not let it take you. You know what I mean? Just be an
Mhm.
observer of the feelings, and then and then feel into it, and then realize, wow, there is something getting ready to happen, and of course, boom, it happened, and we're going to get more of the same too. Things that are going to drop people's jaws, and
Yeah.
this is how it's rolling, man. I
Right.
mean, it,
Which
it
will
is going to increase. This is not going to stop.
right. Which we're going to be getting into a little bit here in a minute with the astrological aspects, which Rodney is always, on point with those insights. But yeah, I think that's so interesting. You talked about the Piscean aspect to it, because not only is that potentially your psychic kind of ability, that deep intuitive emotional aspect, but think
Yes.
about the sensitivity of a being that lives in the water. You feel every
Yeah,
little
man.
vibration. You're living in that soup of, it's like an allegory for the ether, where you like, we're all in this kind of fishbowl called planet Earth, and the energy is palpable, and when it's really heavy, it almost feels like you're in water, right in the depths.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
been
Exactly.
really heavy and sticky lately, ramping up, because I was already feeling that way. My nerves were on edge the day, like the what was that, the ninth or whatever, the day before
Yes.
the
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
big one, and there was that train or subway incident, and I had made a post about that, and I definitely could feel there was a bigger energetic uh, aspect to that yo, what's up,
What's
man?
up, guys?
Hey, man.
Sorry for the delay. Rodney, what's up, brother?
Hey, how
Yeah,
are you, man?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Very good. Yeah,
yeah.
doing great.
Excellent.
um Will, I think your mic is a little hot, maybe it's like a background. Yeah, and can you make sure the noise cancellation is on in the settings? But yeah, so I made that post that, oh, it stopped for just a second. I heard it. um
Am I coming through?
Yeah, I
yeah,
can
I'm
hear you.
hearing you. It's just
Okay.
the white noise in the background, but
Oh, gotcha.
sorry.
Here, it's my fan. I can turn it down. It's not really needed.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I made that post, and I could feel that slight edginess, that kind
Oh
of
yeah.
on
Oh yeah.
edge, and then and it was already like noticeable. And then the next day, when the shit really hit the fan, I was like blown away, man. You know, and I'm
Yeah.
having to be really
It's
mindful with jumping on social media, because you're just going to get a freaking avalanche of
oh shit. Yeah.
everything. I mean, all
Oh
the
yeah.
projection, the speculation, and not just, I mean, like special speculation, but presented as just irrefutable fact. You know what I mean? Like this is just is how what happened or what didn't happen, and all the sickness coming out too. Celebrating bloodshed. And I keep having this vision of, from the Blade movie, where the
Yeah.
first one, when the blood sprinklers come on, and they're
Oh
having
god.
like
Yeah.
this blood orgy, and the techno's pounding. That's what I see when I open social media, is just like just bathing in the blood, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's very vampiric, man. That's
Yes.
what we're dealing with. It's very vampiric energy. It's
Absolutely.
it's designed to be that way to draw the energy into certain areas so that people continue to be divided and conquered. I mean, you got to realize that this is all they have, dude, is divide and conquer. This is their strategy, and they use it in almost every program, through religion, through government, on down the line. And as long as they can pit men and women and races, race lines, and all of this against each other, and this continue on with this, we're going to continue to get the same result. And that's why there's warriors like and wizards like us out here doing this right now and doing this work, and others who are sounding the bullhorn from the top of the flipping uh, structures, when you want to talk about the ethers and everything, man, we're out here doing it, and day in and day out, and it has to continue, because otherwise, how are we ever going to reach people? And how are we ever going to really get this message out that needs to be spoken? It needs to be spoken from the core of our existence and drive the narrative to truth, man. Otherwise, what's the point? This shit's just going to keep continuing on and on and on,
Right. Yeah, I wanted to point out, just for the record, when people jump to so many conclusions so quickly, I mean, the dust is barely even settled within hours or minutes of something happening. Everybody's already got a theory, and they're stating it as absolute fact. With these events, I was saying this to Will the other day as well, and I think Rodney too, is that there's multiple outcomes when you're dealing with this kind of thing. There's false flags that are completely staged and fake, like a Hollywood
Yeah.
production. There's false flags that are orchestrated, planned, but are real, that really happened. There's actual deaths that occur. And then there are organic events that happened, without some kind of nefarious hand, but then the media is always going to hijack that narrative and twist it and slant it to be more manipulative, where they can cover up the say it was this person that did it instead of the actual person that did it. They're just like grafting a story on top of a real event that happened. And these are all possible outcomes in any given thing, and they all happen. So it's never just, you see these people it's all fake, it's all Hollywood, none of it's real. That's just pure denial and like dissociation. They're literally incapable of even accepting that the horror that they're seeing could actually be real. They're just like, oh yeah, it's all make believe, haha. Now we can post memes
Oh,
and
man.
just be jolly and make fun of it and stuff. And like any one of these could be any of these outcomes, and sometimes you will literally never know. And that, I think, scares people more than anything, because they'd rather die than say, oh, you know what, I don't really know what happened. I don't have a strong opinion. Everybody's got a freaking opinion. Will?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got an opinion for sure. I like what you guys were saying. Obviously, I jumped in a little late, but this is why the occult arts and sciences is really important to understand. I see these type of events as just like egregore feeding, right? It's
That's what they
feeding
are,
these
man.
group
Yep.
minds of these non-physical collective thought forms, right? You can look at them as, left, right, the belief in government, religions. These are all egregores. So it's, just group thought forms. And it just feeds that. And the social engineers know this. They know how to manipulate that to play chess at a higher dimension. And the reaction from people is very telling on their level of awareness and their level of consciousness, their state of mind that they're currently in. And, you can speculate and you can put your opinion out there, but it's the jumping to conclusions. It's the lack of logic and reason. It's the emotional reaction. It's the focus and the attention. Because, look, this type of event, there's still no change there. It has manifested. It is what it is. If you want change, we got to get down to the causal levels, the causal level. And that's always going to be that area of mentalism and morality, and the philosophical level. And we just don't see those conversations at all. It's all about speculation and opinions, and still the political dialogue is still out there, going back and forth with the left and the right. Huge blame game, and it just shows us, as far as humanity's progress, how far we are. Right? And I don't want to be a downer, but that's a fact, and that's the truth of it. So it's important for people that consider themselves a truth speaker, Even a truth seeker, but a truth speaker, to understand where you at, where is your 0 point, and go from there, because
Hmm.
obviously our actions are important. So ask
Yeah,
yourself what you're feeding.
that's right. I've seen people throwing around comments today, even saying, "Oh, people are waking up. They're seeing what's happening," and it's like, are you kidding me? Are we even on the same internet right now? Like, it's on full display how absolutely not awake people are, and they're just completely on autopilot, like an instinctive knee jerk reaction with zero like stop, pause, and think, or stop, stop, think, and roll, or whatever we say. Will, um,
Stop, drop, and think.
there you go. Stop, turn around, get under the table, think. I don't know, light a candle, something, like, instead of just this complete automatic response, and in the most toxic, vitriolic kind of ways too. It's just like two dogs that you can't even keep. Like, you let them, you let up on the leash for a second, and they're just like, you know what I mean? It's just
Mm.
like almost uncontrollable, because there's so much built up aggression and murderous rage in people, that an event like this just like opens the floodgates, and it's just gushing out at each other, especially when they're locked in this left right paradigm where, I mean, it's so entrenched in their tunnel vision of like, they are everything that's wrong with this world, and they're projecting all of that towards this other team, saying they are the epitome of evil and everything that's messed up in the world, and the other side is literally looking at back at them and saying the exact same thing, and they don't realize that they're a mirror of each other.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, same coin, right? Same bird, two wings. It's
Yes.
all, and that's the thing about the occult, is that it can be psyoped as well. And that's what people don't understand about it, is that there needs to be, in my opinion, a reformation of the occult. And that's part of what's going on too, because there's a lot of occult stuff out there that's dropped into new age mindsets as well, and then drove the narrative to some bullshit. So when we're looking at, what's actually happening here, is that we're seeing the condition of humanity as every one of these psychological operations, like you were speaking about, Will, the condition of the collective mind, and what it's actually, it's literally in the abyss.
Mm.
And when we're talking about how the hell people get out of this, how do you unlock the tesseract? How do you unlock the dynamic to getting free, or beginning to take that step to get free? You need mentors. You need people who are already in this and doing this work. And there's not enough of us. Think about it. If the floodgates actually began to open to people asking questions, and really truly in their connection wanted to connect back to nature, back to source, back to, the true roots and our true origins of humanity, how many teachers, how many people would that take to actually get that done? We're talking about, you know people that are going to have to rise up in this time, and forerun and get it done,
Mm.
do the work themselves as an individual, and then have the ability, later on, to be able to teach and open places and facilities and all of the stuff that we have to actually do in context to bringing in this change to humanity. At this point, and I'm going to ask you guys this question: do you think humanity really has a shot at this? Do you really believe? Do you really think that humanity has a shot at actually making a major transformation?
In our current condition, no, but that that doesn't mean it's impossible, because I think all options, all possibilities exist. It's almost like that, the quantum superposition. Like, a human being is a quantum being. We can change drastically. We can jump timelines, but it would take a hell of a lot, and in our current condition, I don't see we're anywhere close to that. Because what I was going to say is, the biggest problem, like on the front line of it, is that for change to happen, someone has to acknowledge there's a problem to begin with. That's the first step. And people aren't even there. They think this is fucking normal. They think that their feelings, whatever the issue might be about guns or trans rights or all of this kind of stuff, they think they're 100% right. And, especially lefties, they think they're so progressive and they've like
Yeah.
come out of all the religious programming, and that where they've landed is like super advanced, and they're, the woke. That's what they think. They think that's what progressivism is we're moving forward into this new paradigm. We're leaving the old patriarchal and all the, religious systems behind. And that's where a lot of this dialectic comes in, because it's like the progressives are progressing in the wrong direction, and the conservatives are conserving some good values, but they're also clinging to some of the old false moral values that the left are pushing up against. So it's like this, you can't separate the parts. It's like the whole structure is being pulled in this tug of war. They have no discernment of what, because there's no true moral knowledge. That has always been the issue. Without a true objective understanding of morality and what principles and virtues ought to be, you have no framework to exercise your discernment and tell, hey, this is some bullshit that we've done for hundreds of years, and this should just go right the fuck out. And this is actually something really valuable that we've held on to. And this is partly what's keeping society from just completely flying apart right now, is that some people are still actually preserving some positive, true values, if that makes sense. And so they both are just totally entrenched in this I'm right, there's nothing wrong with it, and not even seeing the absolute insanity and mental illness and sickness on both sides. I do think the left is a little bit more blatant, um, with that emotional, volatility that you see them snapping at any moment on something. It just depends, though. You know what I mean? I think supporting foreign wars is just just as psychopathic, even though they might not be as like having some rage meltdown on TikTok about it, but they're still supporting that, and that is a mental illness in its own way. It's just not as like obvious, if that makes sense. I know I'm ranting on here. If you guys want to jump on.
Well, I'll touch on Rodney's question. Where humanity in the aggregate is so behind, like you were saying, Logan, like you have to even correctly diagnose a problem, right, to even address causality of the issue itself. So humanity, definitely spiritual infants, retarded infants, unfortunately, that energy is in such a deficit that there has to be some major intervention. Yeah. There has to be some major serious energy behind a cause or a movement. That's what a movement is. It's a movement of mind, right? Now, is it one mind? Okay, that's a drop in a bucket compared to the aggregate. Is it a million minds? Now we're talking about some serious scalar energy that is moving shit around, right? And we're not there. We're not there. We are going down into the deficit at a staggering rate. And that information differential that gap is so far. The basic tool sets that humanity needs to have, like to listen, stop, drop, think, logic, reason, problem solving, understanding the laws of nature. These fundamental qualities and aspects of this incarnation of this life, the basic rules of the game, you could say, right? Humans don't even have that. That's why, I'm really big on parenting, and that generational knowledge and wisdom must be passed down. Now, I don't want to portray a defeatist mentality, because I didn't say, don't do anything. There's no chance. It's just, you have to look at it, the energy, as an arc. Eventually, it will turn the other direction, right? Per the law of rhythm. Is that going to be 100 years? Is it going to be 1,000 years? Is it going to be 1,000,000 years? Is the question, right? How long is that trough going to dip down and decrease before finally either humanity destroys themselves or, lowers the numbers to such a low rate that suffering finally gets humans to look at, force a different perspective, right? Which I definitely think is kind of almost an end result, because that's the purpose of suffering, right? You'll suffer until you die, and then you'll get a bit of the message on the other side, hopefully, right? And then you do it again to get that lesson. So the trajectory that humanity is going it's not good. It's not good. And I absolutely, like the social engineers, they understand this. This is what occult science is all about. It's a long game. It's multiple lifetimes. This is not 5 years. We're talking 500 years is the equivalent to 5 years for them, right?
Yeah.
So we need to get in this mindset as well, right? So it's important we educate our children. We put this message out there into the ethos, into the ether, recording content, for as long as there's digital records, let that echo into eternity. And, that's why I do that work, because it's the right thing to do.
Totally the right thing to do.
Well said.
Man. Totally.
Yeah.
And that's just, and this, goes back to my point about teachers, man, and raising up actual teachers, actual people who give a shit, like you, like Logan and others that are in network, that, like, at some point there has to be, to fill a cup, you have to have a cup. You can't be a broken cistern. It can't have cracks and holes in it, right? And to be able to fill that cup with water, it's got to be, the grail has to be, intact. And this is where we're doing our own individual work, diving into our own personal universe, and taking these arts of gnosis and weaving them as a tapestry within our own lives to find out who the hell we really are. Because that comes down to it. Basically, the human race has a big fucking case of amnesia. They don't remember who the hell they are, where they came from. They've been cut off from their ancestral roots, cut off from nature itself. And now we're having a timeline split in context to the organic timeline and this AI timeline in context to how things are manifesting now. See, that's why I think we are here in this timeline, in this period, to drive the narrative for the human race to actually, wake the fuck up and build the foundations that need to be built for 10, 20, 50, 100 years from now. So we are, and this is what the Aquarian energy is all about. When you want to talk about networking and bringing things together, that's why when I see these flare-ups in network between people or between certain people, that are going at each other, because they seem to have a different opinion or point of view on something, and it gets a little nasty. It's a little disheartening, because we all are on the same side here, man, and I see that sometimes, when it flares up and stuff. And when with my personal life, everywhere I go, guys, I'm speaking this stuff. I mean, literally, like the other night, I was sharing this with Logan. I'll just share just a quick story. So I was in an open mic setting, and I was just at the table. I was having a beverage, and my table was maybe a half inch from the wall, and the server comes by me 3 or 4 times, and she's looking at me, and she comes up to me. She says, "Do you mind if I move your table?" And I said, "Sure. Yeah, move my table. It's fine. Whatever you need to do." So she moves the table, and she takes like 3 or 4 minutes just to get it perfect. Like literally over there for a couple, 3 minutes trying to get this table just to push up against the wall, right? And then she goes and she straightens the chairs and all this. And I said to her, I said, "You did that just like a true Virgo." And she looked at me and she said, "How did you know I was a Virgo?" And I said, "Your actions told me exactly what you were." And she says, "Wow." She goes, "I don't really believe in that stuff because I'm a Christian." And I said, "Well, you know what? I just gave you proof that it's true, that it's real. I just read your mail." And she, her eyes got that big and she goes, "No, you're right. You're right. That maybe there is something to that stuff, you know? And it's this type of awareness that we have to carry everywhere we go as mages, as wizards, right? To speak forth these oracles of truth in context to these arts of gnosis and our own personal lives and experiences. And I think that is what's being built right now in context to network and the One Great Network and other schools that are out there, that we are starting to build a foundation of teachers and wizards and mages. And I think that really personally, as far as my opinion is, that's what's under attack. We're looking at, yeah, they've already got the NPCs. They're already, moving them wherever they want, but they're not moving us. You see, we're seeing it. We have the awareness. We're working from our core intelligence. And this is what they're really wanting to get, is to drop us into the, what we came out of and throw us back into that. And there comes a point when there's a point of no return back to that. You're not going back. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so this is kind of how I've been seeing things in context to the clarion call and what's actually needs to take place. What do you guys think about that?
I was feeling that, man. That was
Yeah.
good.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, to even kind of comment on Huxley's comment here, he says, "Now is the time for everyone who cares to go out of our way to do great things for others. Give back hard because people really need examples opposite such horrendous situations." And I really agree with that. But I also think that when it comes to doing great things for others, the greatest thing that you can do is teach the way, show the way, not just like through being generous and you know uh, donating and to charities and stuff like that. That stuff's all fine and well, but I think one of the greatest, most benevolent actions that we can take is show others the way to empowerment and right action, morality, right, how to actually be a good person by living that, and to stop condoning evil in all its forms, because that's the only thing that's going to actually create the change that we want to see in the world, is when enough people are not only living right themselves but saying no to evil in its face. Then it's something to contend with. It can't just walk around and parade in the open anymore. It has to think twice about what it's doing. I'm talking about evil has to think twice. It has to go back into the shadows. Right now, it's so rampant because it doesn't have to hide anymore. People, it's just out in the open and everyone's just cheering for it. Like, yay, murder, bloodshed. Like, they don't need to hide anymore.
Mm.
In
So,
some ways, though, Logan, it's like a boil on the skin that's got all the pus, and that pus has to be released at some point. We're
yeah.
seeing a release, going into to the end of this year and going into 2026. We're seeing a release of the pus, like the actual condition. We're going to see the condition of the people, and the astrology is lining up with this in context to that.
Well, that's an interesting example that you give there, because what is pus? It's infection.
It's infection.
And just popping the boil and letting the pus blow out all over everybody's faces
It's what's happening
is
right now. Yeah.
is that's what's happening, but that alone is not going to clean the infection out.
Nope.
You've got, once that wound is open, now you got to get in there and scrape all of it out, and then pour peroxide in there and kill the infection, and it's going to hurt like hell. But that's the part that people aren't doing. All they're doing is exploding their pus over everyone, and then it's going to close up and then just start just building up again. and that's the cycle that we're in. But what I'm saying is, though, that it's revealing the infection is there.
Totally, it
Every
is,
time
man.
this
Mm,
boils
Yep.
over and it's just a pus fest on the feeds, that's what we're seeing is the sickness is everywhere.
Yep.
And
that's right.
that's what we have to get real with.
Down with the sickness, man. People are down with the sickness.
Yeah, it's like health, right? I mean, if you're going to heal, you have to stop putting the toxins into your body. And even what the allopathic system calls like symptoms, like for instance, flu-like symptoms, your body's expelling those toxins. It's going through a healing process. So it's bringing it to the surface to try to expel that. It's very similar in society, but if the toxins keep coming in, you're obviously overloading the body and the system, and it cannot heal or regenerate, which is kind of interesting because we see the evidence of a potential, you can call, elevation of awareness, awakening. We see that this potentiality is viable. Just look how quickly something, well, in the modern age, it's usually something dark and immoral, how fast it can go viral and spread all over the
Totally.
world, right?
Yeah.
Look, I did a post, tongue in cheek, about the Phillies Karen, how quick that became a viral. Some chick stealing a baseball at a
Right.
baseball game from a
Yeah.
dad and a kid. How quick that went viral. But that is evidence that anything can go viral with the right state of mind, the right awareness, and the choice of the people. So why not something like morality, freedom, a correct diagnosis, etc. Anything, right? So that's where true education comes in, and activation of the people, because it only goes viral when people share that shit, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
But
that's
but
the
why do they
reason.
share? It's what they care about.
That's
Exactly.
right.
That's really
Exactly.
what and everything you're saying is correct, and I agree. But I think that the next layer underneath that is the care, and that's, to me, really the trickiest part, because you can't make someone care. And I was going to mention this earlier about, there's this trend right now with sort of doxing and um, shaming people that are celebrating death, the death that we're talking about here. Um, but what is that really going to do? You're not going to change these people's minds or how they feel by shaming them or putting them on blast, or even if they did end up getting fired from their job or something like that. That's not going to, if anything, it's going to make them even more bitter, or like, or solidify their beliefs. Like, yeah, I was so right that people couldn't even handle it, and they fired me. I lost my job, or I lost my scholarship, or whatever. So, to this comment here that Nick said, you can't do the work without having done the shadow work first. That's
Right.
the big issue.
Yes.
I fully agree that is the
Absolutely.
big elephant in the room. That even the natural law and the anarchist community are not only missing, but are very much privy to, or like susceptible to as well. Is almost no one is doing this. No one is looking at themselves with true accountability and saying, I'm part of the problem. It's always the external projection everywhere, and that is the biggest obstacle from the first step. Like, we can't make any other progress with freedom, morality, any of that, until people can take accountability, do shadow work, acknowledge there's a problem at all, and again, care with a capital C enough about the truth and actual goodness.
That's right. That's what I mean, even the traditional initiatory schools were. It was about changing, sending you through a process
Yep.
where you are different from there on,
Yep.
right? And that is deep shadow work, and it's continual. And kind of going back to what you said earlier about Rodney, that yes, the ones that understand this, it is so important to have that dexterity, that longevity, and that requires the internal work, right? Because it as we progress and the climate gets darker and gets, tougher, right? That level of internal work really is going to, set your standard and your quality of life and your quality of involvement and contribution.
Yeah, any type of apocalyptic event's going to be tested in context to your own shadow work. You will face whatever it is that you feel that you have overcome or that you feel you have had made progress with. That is the mirror. And that will come into your field to test your revelation, to test what you've been doing and how you've been working with your own shadow, and making integration progress. And this is what's happening to the human race in that form, in context to the alchemical rites of initiation. I mean, how many sons and daughters are actually initiated? The initiation process that used to take place in ancient times. We don't even have that protocol any longer. And so we as men and women in this movement have to develop that not only within our own selves and be an initiate, but then be able then to initiate others, because if we have attained a certain level of consciousness and in connection with our higher self and the higher force itself and from our core intelligence. And so we are, we can be the lighthouse of intuition for people, but that's going to take a major commitment in people's lives. And the way that things are set up now, everything is trying to pull your energy, from having to have a job to a roof over your head. Everything is like in duress and pressure all the time on people, because we have to live in this world, in this society. And this is how just going to say this is why you become a magician, because you understand how vibrational correspondence actually works in context to setting your intent from your core intelligence. Without that, you're not going to change your reality field. It's not going to happen. So this is why we have to understand these hermetic principles and apply them in our lives and etch them in stone in our unconscious, subconscious mind field. So it's like breathing to us. That's right. Where we all have to get, in context to where we're, changing our own personal reality field and taking that land. And look, these dark occultists have had, like you were talking about, Will, they're not thinking in months and years, they're thinking in decades and centuries. And you're absolutely right. And so we have to start thinking like that, see? Because this is how we're going to change the reality field in context to what's been hijacked long ago, and it's coming up for review, guys. Pluto and Aquarius isn't messing around, it's not messing around. This is what we are up against here in context to transformation. The 11th gate is being transformed as we speak. And without us as mages and wizards getting it done here and now over the next 2 to 3 years, we have to get it done, man. There has to be like a major springboard and catapult to what we're doing here. It's good. Yeah, we're putting out podcasts, we're connecting and all this stuff, but there needs to be a jump coming. That's how I see it. There's got to be some type of, and I don't really know how to do it, to be honest with you. I know that, like a round table of some type where we are actually breaking bread together, breaking ground together, and then, leaving our own personal opinions and focusing on what truth is, and then bringing that into manifestation into the realm itself. And this goes back to the wisdom councils. This goes back to the round table, in context to what, this has been tried. This has come together at certain times in history, but fallen apart. And so we're back up for review again on it here, guys. This is just how I'm seeing it.
Absolutely. Rodney, you want to go ahead and, get into the astrology side of things, since we're kind of
Yeah,
touching
we could
on it here.
just visit it for a few minutes here.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
so you know,
it gives good context to everything. I always say this, but looking at the astrology, it helps you kind of zoom out from everything. Like, when you see even the feed, you're going like this. It's like right in front of your face, and everything is just like hyper speed, all this noise and
oh
busy
yeah,
stuff. But the astrology helps you like zoom out and say, "Oh, wait, there's this bigger picture going on, and there's a reason why the energies are moving the way that they are." So
right,
That's
yeah,
why I like forecast. It's like it's
yeah,
yes,
perfect.
the weather
yeah,
report, yeah.
Yeah, man. That's
yeah.
such a great description of
It
the
totally is.
energy. Yeah, go for it.
It totally is. You know, I was looking at the chart when all this started taking place. You know, with these succession of things that took place, right? And I was looking at it, and just from from kind of what I've seen, they got Robert Kennedy Jr. up at the up in the Senate, up at the House, talking about health, right, and all this stuff and going on, and Sun's in Virgo conjunct Mercury, and we're sitting here with a Kazami right now, where Mercury's transiting the Sun at the moment, and so when we're looking at this type of energy, the Virgo gate is the health gate in context, guys. It's mental health, it's emotional health, it's physical health, and when we're looking at that Virgo gate, that is the gate of logic and reason. When we're talking about the hemispheres of the mind, to Pisces and Virgo, 12-6 axis. So when we're looking at what was thrown out in context, what happened on the wheel, Uranus went retrograde in Gemini, and it's literally trying to the Plutonian energy that's sitting in Aquarius, which is all about what the big, the whole network, the getting together, seeing the people, what's going to happen to the people, how the people are reacting to things, how they're networking the energy in context to social media. That's Aquarius. And when we start to look at what Uranus represents, it's the unpredictable, it's the crazy, it's the tinfoil hat, it has everything to do with social networking and bringing things together and tearing things apart. Literally, that's what the Uranus energy takes place in context to when we're looking at it on an eternal level. And so it's like the tarot card in the tarot. It comes in and it breaks something up so something new can be, come into its place. And so with what we call Pluto out of bounds right now, that's taking place. What that means is that Pluto has moved into a position in its south declination, and this is basically calculated on latitude, not the celestial longitude, which we don't really have that in like a chart right now. I think people are working on it, but I don't think it's actually, you can't see it in real time. So it's what's happened is that's moved to the south, and now it's out of the influence of the sun. So the sun is literally not shining on it right now because it's so far out in declination over past 23 degrees. So what this does to a planet or to an energy in the ethers is it creates a density with that planet, especially when it's in retrograde, and it creates a major power that moves through the ethers right now. And this just happened at the end of August, where it went out into what we call declination, out of bounds. And what it means to the south is, if we want to really look at it, it means that because it's in Aquarius, it means that the power shifting is shifting from government and tyranny and everything that's been set up with all of these systems to the people themselves. Okay. And this is what we're seeing in the streets. This is what we're starting to see. You could say like power to the people or whatever, but it's more just shifting the energies from government structures and all this to the people themselves. And so this is bringing a major shift to see the condition of the collective and how they're going to react and what they're going to do with this energy. Now, this particular energy, I'm going to share this. If I can just real quick share a slide, if I can find it.
I think you might have to reshare your screen because I'm not seeing. It
Oh,
disappeared out of the sources. Yeah.
oh, it did, didn't it? Where did it go? Hang on. Well, shoot. I had it up, didn't I?
Yeah, I don't know where it went.
Huh. Well, hang on here. I'll pull it up here. Reboot it. I guess it. Okay, let's try this again. You guys go ahead, man. If you want to say something, so I can get this.
Yeah, everyone watching, if you're enjoying this, if you're getting value and appreciating us coming live, hit that thumbs up button, give it a share. Appreciate you being here, of course. Just having a little hangout.
Okay. There it is. Okay. Let's see what we can do with this.
That's something that just came to mind too. Was like what's going on in Nepal.
Yeah, we were going to talk about that.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll wait on that.
Yeah. So there. Do you have it now? There.
Yep, it's on screen.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the transits for Pluto out of bounds over the next 10 years. So basically, right now, we're in it, and it's going to go till November 24th. So during this period of time, the plutonian energy is going to be super amplified, and this is going to cause, as well as I do, how planetary energy works. It depends on the individual, how they wield it. And this is how the dark occultists work, guys. Okay? So these are all the dates. This is how they work. And you guys know this, is that they take the energy of the ethers and then they work it in a way that it works against, in context to spiraling into the abyss, that it works against the people and against certain things.
The
So when
positive.
when we're looking at these psychological operations of what's taking place, it's no surprise that they're throwing it out now, because with Pluto in declination to the south, the people are the ones that the power shifting is taking place towards. So if we look at the last Pluto declination that we had, it was into the north, and it was in 1938 to 1946. Well, what happened in 1938 to 1946? World War II and the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Okay? We're talking major events here. All right? So when we're looking at these events over the next 10 years, these are the months that Pluto is going to be out of bounds, like literally out of bounds, which means that these months are the months that we really need to look into and see where the energies are at and what the hell is going on. And literally, guys, we have this actual trine going on with Uranus and Pluto right now that is sextiling over to Saturn, which just moved into Pisces at 29 degrees. And now we have Neptune sitting in Aries energy. So all these outer planets are all connected by trines and sextiles, which what it's doing is it's creating a massive amount of energy on the subrealms to the collective mind. This is what we're up against. So these are the dates, 2025 through 2035, to the dates that literally the plutonian energy is going to be out of bounds. But this is what I saw really interesting. I just want to go to the top here, and then I'll unshare this. But this is the history of declination to the south in Aquarius. 1775 to 1796, the American and French revolutions, the destruction of monarchy, the birth of modern democracy, decentralization of religions, and the aristocratic power. That was the last time that Pluto was out of bounds to the south. These events took place. Those are major world events that literally reconstructed how things are governments and how things are set up, and literally revolution in context to what the French Revolution, the beheading of the king, and all of that, man. When we talk about what happened then, and it goes all the way down, when we're looking at all these major events that took place in context to this. And if anybody wants these, I can post them on my Facebook page. You can
please. I want that too. That's awesome.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, but I'm not going to get into all that. But it's just I just wanted to show that real quick, because this is nothing to be messing around with. This is serious energy. And we have been working with high planetary magic for a long time. I know I have, and I felt this, because I have a lot of 8th house energy. I felt this when it actually went out of bounds. I could feel the expansion of it. And when we start to talk about, like you were talking about, Will, about what was happening in Nepal, and then the psychological operations that just took place, with the Ukrainian woman and the black guy on the light rail in Charlotte, and then looking at the divide and conquer between male and female, black and white, throwing all the race out, all that, and then taking it all the way to what happened on the 10th, right around 9/11. At the same time, of course, they took advantage of the timeline there as well, in context to governmental structures, religious structures, trying to fortify the programming is what they're trying to do right now. This is why they're throwing this shit out, because they're trying to fortify religious programming and governmental aspects in context to what? Trying to keep control. Okay, this is what's going down, and because things could get majorly out of control with this energy as the power shifts to the people themselves, and we're seeing manifestations of that now. In context to what you were talking about, Will, with what happened in Nepal. Go ahead. I've been talking enough.
Yeah. So you've got the Nepal situation. For anyone not familiar, they basically burned their parliament building and threw their prime minister in the river naked. And then you've got
Emperor has no clothes, right?
In Ukraine, they're protesting Zelensky over there.
That.
They're all just like right outside the freaking government buildings and stuff. And then France too.
Yeah.
There's major shit, and you probably haven't seen that because it's just it's like being drowned out with everything else,
Well, that's the last thing they want, is to people to understand this type of science, right? That there is a energetic slipstream or current that can be utilized, that comes with certain types of attributes. It's just like if you're driving if you're driving and you want to get to the other side of town, and you can see that there's traffic on this street, you're going to go a different route. Right, so that's what the social engineers do. They're out there waving, no, go this way, right into the traffic, and people are just okay, and they just follow it, because they're just ignorant of the alternative routes. As a crude example, and this is high level magic, 100%. And I wrote a note down that I wanted to touch on when you were talking about the magician, Rodney, and the magician, to me, one of its biggest attributes, obviously, is adaptability, right? Yep. It uses any situation, any condition, anything that is thrown at him or her, it can use and transmute and adapt and pivot and use to their benefit in some form or fashion. So that's why that archetype and the embodiment of the magician is extremely important in this day and age. This day and age, for sure.
Yeah, and this is why initiation is so important, and to do things correctly, because when we're talking about, as you guys know, taking it to your state of mind with all this that's going on, it's very easily to take the bait and get pulled into all the bullshit if you aren't aware of your own state of mind and your own consciousness and your own thought, knowing what your thoughts are and knowing what's coming and trying to pull you into things. And this really is about, mastering thought and emotion, your moon energy, because this is what gets jammed, in context to where things are at with your own personal templating. And so many, this is what I teach people. I'm like, if you can't navigate your moon energy, you're pretty much screwed, because this is where it gets pulled into the inversions of Saturn, when we're talking about cube technology and the hex itself, how it's working on the inversion to the black sun. And that's where it gets pulled, where that takes place, because it's a continual cycle of jamming the moon and then doing the ignorance with your actions to the karmic retribution that boomerangs back at you. So it literally is a cycle that's on the loop, the Ouroboros in context, that just keeps going over and over and over, lifetime after lifetime, with these incarnations. And that's really what's coming up for review here, with the human race itself. Are we going to catch it? Are we going to actually get something done here? Or are we going to continue on like we've been going and continue on for all these years and decades and centuries? And in one way, I'm very, very challenged, but I'm very, very joyful in some ways that things are really going to come up and get chaotic, because maybe, just maybe, like you were saying, some of the suffering that's going to take place, people will actually look at it and say, well, damn, I am tired of suffering. I am tired of feeling like this and being like this, going to my job every day and just grinding it the fuck out. There's got to be something different. There's got to be something else out there. And this may be these events, and, may work against, like you say, evil sows its own seeds of destruction, work against it itself because of the actual Saturnian aspect that's taking place right now. We will see. But again, these energies are intense, guys, and they're going to continue on going into 2026 with this particular transit, with the Pluto out of bounds, and then it will come back in bounds. But those energies are still going to be magnified because of the trines and the sextiles on the outer planets as they move through the wheel. Saturn won't move out of this until late 2026. Out of these energies. So we're on for a while here with all this.
Good.
It's gonna get
Buckle
intense.
Buckle up. Hands up.
Yep, the gloves are definitely off when it comes to plutonian energy at the moment.
See, this is where I love how there's been a lot of talk about being the magician, being and what that really means at its core is standing in your own power, understanding you have the ability to influence, to create your life, to impact change on things. And so don't be afraid of these energies, guys.
No,
it's not something to fear. It's all just, it's like the clay. You get to mold it into something positive. The the stuff that's going on out there, we don't know how that's gonna, what direction that's gonna go, what's gonna come of it, and you don't have any control over that, right? We're here doing this live stream. This is our best effort to put some ideas out there, put a positive message out there. Beyond that, we don't actually have control. What we do have control over is our actions, our minds, our emotions, and our actions. and that is where your power seat is. And you need to stay grounded in that. Don't get caught up in the bullshit. Don't be afraid and like, oh, everything's going to be so bad, there's war coming and all these kind of things that's getting thrown around there. Maybe that's true, but that's beyond your control. And you can use this energy that is so fucking powerful for good. Just because the dark occultists are out there manipulating it and using it for their own negative purposes, does it's your energy too. We all have access to tap into that and make something out of it. And personally, uh, I was more in a rut a few weeks ago. I was not feeling great. I was really like down in the just in the mud. I couldn't get anything done. I didn't have any motivation. I was just playing video games and driving the truck, which, you got to be an adult and just keep living and paying the bills and all that. But beyond that, I wasn't doing anything very extraordinary. But I've since come out of that, and I've found that this energy right here is very powerful in a positive way, and I'm getting stuff done. Not the Wizard Factory, as I'm sure some of you might be thinking. I haven't been very active lately, and I will be getting back.
Yeah, here we are, man. Here we are.
Yeah, true. But I am just working on. I'm working on other stuff, which is also important, and trying to better my own situation, which is kind of what I'm trying to say here. Is the world is the world, and yeah, it's going to do what it's going to do, and we all have to live in it. But you also get to create your own little niche in this. You get to carve out your own little space and make it whatever you want. And that's what being a magician is all about, is using your own creative abilities to do that. And so do that. I recommend it.
I like it.
It's the Wizard Factory, man. And what does that do? That we're bringing, wizards are all over the world. We're going to find, magicians all over the world are going to find their roots. They're going to find their internal dialogue. They're going to find their core intelligence. They're going to ignite their heart core intelligence, and this is going to happen. It can't be stopped. It's just about, in my viewpoint, it's about finding the eye of the storm, and then being able to then integrate or take that energy of the storm itself and stream that chaos magic and streamline it into something that's constructive, that's going to change the reality field. And that's what you were talking about, Will. That's what magicians do. That's their method of operation, and we can't get caught in the narrative of the story. We are the story. We are the cause point of change and the cause point to vibrational correspondence, which brings the effect to change. So many people are still living in their past because of cause and effect and the choices that they've made in their lives that have caught up with them in karmic retribution. And they can't seem to get out of it because they keep being a victim to it, and not realizing that at some point they can change the weaving of the weird. But they have to be the cause point to make that happen, and that's what we're doing. We're discovering. We're making transformation and transmutation aspects within our own mind field, our own heart core intelligence, our own reality field itself, and then taking that and becoming a witness to our community, to people around us, to our circle of influence, and beyond that. And this is really where the rubber meets the road, as far as I'm concerned, as people who are doing the work and actually getting the results.
Yeah, well said. I mean, the tools that we have available to us makes high magic very viable, right?
Yes.
I mean, because we're talking about influence,
Yes.
creating influence in the reality field. And that is not just in your local reality field. That's on a global reality field
Absolutely.
if you choose and if you have the capability to do that. So it's kind of I really like game theory. Just because I'm very logical and I like to kind of war game and use my imagination on many different scenarios. And I kind of come up with this double-edged type of thinking. And it's, get mad but stay grounded. Work, live locally, right? But speak globally, speak truth globally. So
Yeah.
it's like there's this, as within, as without. It's just like a correspondence type of thinking, and I found that very useful to just explore and kind of and even work within ritual of that as well, because like you were saying, Logan, and you, Rodney, right, there's all these events that are happening. Very important to stay grounded within yourself, and know what you can do, what your capacity is, your capability, and then act accordingly.
Yeah, that's a great point. Grounding. I mean, there's so many tools to grounding in the toolkit, that you can use,
Yeah.
and you have to be, you have to integrate those to protocol within your own life, and know what to pull out, when to pull it out, and when to do it, and all of that is core intelligence, and understanding your own templating and who you are and how it works and your disposition, all of that. It's all relative, to your own personal journey here, and then becoming the lighthouse of intuition to the global aspect or the community aspect,
Yeah,
and
for
this
sure.
is where things have to really shift. I believe. I think this is where the catapulting or the shifting is going to take place, over the next few years. I think we're going to see some major steps. I really do believe that.
As
We're
far as
already
like
setting.
as far as community aspect.
Yeah, being able to get things on a like the One Great Network, building
Yeah.
the foundations to this. Other networks are going to come forth, other things are going to happen, people are going to get motivated on a community level. I believe it's going to happen because of the energies of the Aquarius. When we're talking about Pluto making transformation there, it's not just everybody's talking about, oh, Pluto is going to transfer everything to artificial intelligence and everybody's going to have a cyborg chip and all this bullshit, right? No, it's actually going to influence the connection to networking with people who are like-minded, who are going to get it. You have to have some place to take and to bring the energy into. It's like if you have a business plan and you're trying to go to someone who wants to fund that business plan, if you don't have a plan laid out, and showing, how you're going to, accomplish your goal, why would that person give you finances to do that?
Yeah. Good
It's
point.
the same principle with this, but it's just on the mental and spiritual planes in context. See? And so, so this is part of, I think, where the ground is going to shift, where this Pluto out of bounds is going to help us when we take that energy and really work with it. Now is a fantastic time, even though the outer planets are in retrograde, and still have Saturn in retrograde. This is a great time to start planning for an assault on a global level with our type of content. Like really starting to, break open some out of the box thinking, so to speak, was what Aquarius represents,
Right.
and start to think about, well, what would be the possibilities of this or the possibilities of that, or what if we did this or what if we did that, and start looking at how things could be totally like just breaking out into a whole new idea and a whole new thing. This is what these energies are doing right now.
Fascinating.
Yeah, this
I
is
love
what
it.
it's about.
And there's always that silver lining. Like, we started this conversation talking about, the Charlie Kirk event. And there's still going to be a small minority of people that are going to see the dialectic and be like, oh man, I don't identify with any of these groups. Like, what the fuck? It's the same type of shit. And this is
Exactly.
why it's important for people to be public and to have these conversations, so those other people that are seeing through the BS go, oh wait a minute, that I like what that person's talking about, and you're unifying the energy.
Yes,
And I think that is really important and aligns very much with the energies that you're talking about, because we know the control system is changing.
It
Like
is.
it
It's going to.
absolutely, yeah.
The
We're
way
in a
things are going to be
physical
done is going to be totally
transition
changed. Yes.
of the system itself, right? And you
Yes.
can go down all these things. Um, you know, AI face recognition. Society itself is changing. The functioning of society, and that is happening. And it's a gradual process.
yeah.
So a lot of these distractions are there as well.
Will, I love that what you said, because it's like and I say we because that's kind of what we're doing here. We're coming live. We're trying to again, like the title says, be the voice of reason. It's showing people like that are like these little fragments that didn't go into the box like they were supposed to, and then here we are showing up on the feed, and they go, oh shit, so there's another option. I don't have to just be out here
You're
and
right.
not fitting into these and just seeing all this crap go on, and like not resonating with that. It's showing them they have there's another option, and
Yeah,
they can come into the fold, so to speak.
that's right.
I,
It's
I, I
the
definitely go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I forget what it's called. It's part of it's the least talk about aspect of the Milgram experience, right? Where it pretty much showed that
Uh,
humans, when they see courage, someone doing a courageous act,
Yes.
it gives them inspiration, and then there's a super high percentage of them acting in
and saying,
alignment with
"Well,
that.
I'm not doing it either." Yeah,
Correct.
they just need to see someone go first, which is to me what lead means. To lead means to go first.
Exactly.
The lead is he's in the lead. He's at the front. He's leading the charge, and then everybody else sort of has permission to follow in that direction and say, "Well, he's doing it. I'll do that too," or she. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to touch on the community aspect as well too, because I know that you know it's funny the timing. Rodney, you're talking about this event that hasn't happened since the Revolutionary War, and these
Yeah.
very
It's a
significant
significant
restructuring,
transit, man. Yeah.
and that word stood out to me, restructuring, because that is definitely what's happening right now, especially with the advent of AI and blockchain.
Mm.
Yeah.
That is coming in. It's here, and I don't think the average person even has a clue how radically different things are going to be sooner than you'd think as well. And I think that what we think of as money and the economy and career, these words aren't going to mean the same thing. And I think these things are really just going to go away because there won't be much need for them anymore, because productivity and if the efficiency to produce things is going to be so high that the cost of almost everything is going to go virtually to zero. And it's like, well, if everything doesn't, nothing costs much to even create, you don't need to charge much for it, and then what do you need money for to buy it in the first place? And then all these jobs are going to go away, and all these people are going to be left standing around like, well, what do I do now? Like, I don't need to be a computer programmer, or I mean, a factory worker. I mean, you could go on and on with all the jobs that are going to disappear. There will still be, I think it's going to be like a specialized, like the humans that still do specific roles, they'll be like specialists that sort of orchestrate and kind of spearhead and lead the AI operations. And it's like one human kind of directing things, and then everything else is going to go away, and so people are going to have this existential crisis of like, who am I if I'm not a nurse or a construction worker or whatever, and what do I need money for, and now what do I want to do with all this time on my hands? I think that community is going to be the answer. I think that it's basically going to go to like this micro community online. It's almost like going back to the tribal way of life, except in a digital format, where it's not going to be these huge communities. It's going to be all these little micro niches where people can find their their exact people and connect with who they want to in that way. And so, like in the marketing world, community is already really come up and coming with like platforms like School and stuff like that. And I think that's only going to get more prevalent. So I think that's a really positive thing that is potentially coming with, again, the restructuring. I really like that word, is how I'm looking at what's going to be happening, not only in the economy, the workforce, but very likely government too, because people are realizing that people can't be trusted, and they're going to basically, I think, look to AI to take over the government and organize and manage things. And because they're so supposedly immune to corruption and greed and things like that, unless they're programmed to be that way, then
It's like Westworld. If
yeah,
anybody's seen season 3 and 4, Roboham was the name of the AI that ran the world.
there you go.
It's like the humans put it in place.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I think that's a good idea or a bad idea. I'm just saying I think that's what's going to happen. I think that, in fact, I think that that's part of why they're being so out in the open with the corruption, is because they know that's where it's going. So they're just kind of trying to like rip the Band-Aid off and say, look how evil humans are. We can't be trusted with government. It's time to put the AI in charge, basically.
Well, I've been saying this for a little bit. It seems like over the last couple years, even the governmental agencies have just been so retarded. It almost seems like they are intentionally trying to destabilize the government on purpose. So people think like, oh, okay, the government is insufficient. It's just not working. And that gives them kind of an out to start to move the people mentally and emotionally to transition into something else, which still could be on the table, right? So it's a possibility. I like the community thing that you talked about. I think that's great. I personally would like to see communities happen off online into physical communities,
That's
which
what I'm
is
talking about.
huge.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is kind of going to be a big topic of my work, because I obviously focus on natural law and objective morality, which is
Absolutely.
first principles, which for any type of system or community or organization, those first principles have to be in place and
Yeah.
understood for it to be
Yes.
successful.
You know what's striking me about this, just real quick, and then Rodney, you can, you're going to say something, but I think it's almost like, think of online dating. You know, the reason that's so appealing is because you now, instead of just going to the local pub and hoping there's a nice, decent, you know, woman there that's wife material or whatever,
Yeah.
you suddenly have access to the entire world or your state, or however you get to set the parameters of the distance and how far out you want to look. And then but once you meet them, then the goal is to physically meet them. And if things go well, then you might get married and move in together and be a micro community of two in that capacity. So I could see this kind of working the same way, where there's all these different communities that you could seek out people that are so just exactly like what you're looking for. But then the next step is to get those people actually together in a kind of like basically what Will and I and our little sort of secret mastermind group that we've been meeting in for a few years now. There's what, about 8 of us. We
Yeah.
meet every couple of weeks, and we all met online, but we've had several conversations come up about getting some land, or having some kind of communal situation in the real world, and that would be fantastic. So I think that's a very natural tendency for using the internet to kind of find your tribe. But we are flesh and blood human beings, and we want to
we need
feel that.
Yeah.
connection.
There's no
Yes,
We need
substitute
connection.
for human
You know, I
connection.
mean, it's
Yeah.
okay to connect through the ether here, into what we're doing here and all that, but we also need, community direct connection with each other, direct vocal feeling the words, feeling the energy of the other person. I was Mark Passio did a segment on mavens a while back. I don't know if you
Mm.
guys remember that one or not.
yeah,
Yeah.
So one of the things that's been coming up within me is that why do we think that we have to struggle for all these finances to get our message out and get things done? I'm starting to actually think in terms of my own mindset is, when we're looking at intent, when we're looking at working with vibrational correspondence and our state of mind and getting these messages out, the right person hears the message. The right person, that maven, that person that maybe either knows somebody who has a lot of finances or does have a lot of finances, and they look at what's happening and they go, you know what, that's something I could get behind.
Mm.
That's the visions that we need to start thinking about in context to our intent and what we're actually wanting to wield, in context to, because it's going to take money to do this stuff. Right now, this is just a fact. So it's
Yeah.
going to take cash. So, we have to pull that in. See?
That's
We
right.
have to pull it in, man. And any good visionary, and forerunner and leader knows that. And so this is where I am beginning to set my focus in on certain things in my own personal community here. And I'm going to, after I get back from my trip, I'm going to start to really work on this type of thing, like maybe what you're doing, Will, and that type of stuff. But I think it's really important to start to set that type of intent with our mind. What do you guys think? I mean, I think this is something that really needs to be looked at.
Yeah, totally, man.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. And it's kind of a conversation that needs to be had more, because in the anarchists, natural law communities, freedom communities, even the topic of resources, right,
Exactly.
is just there's an imbalance there, and that's an imbalance of understanding the 0 point, the here and now. We are in this system. You can
Yes.
know the Federal
Yes.
Reserve System, the paper sigils. You can understand all of that.
Exactly.
But we have this matrix system that is functioning a certain way, and we need these resources. They're just components for the magician to create something with and
Exactly.
use that for something. The question is, what are you using it for, right? So that's where the resources obviously are. Money itself is an amplification. It's an amplifier of energy and of your true spiritual currency. And this needs to be understood. And we need to get more people on board and unify, even under that aspect alone. But community, resource, accumulation, and it doesn't have to just be money, right? People have attributes and
resources
talents
of any type.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, this is Capricorn, man. This is the 10th gate, the earth magic. In context to, getting the materials to build a house.
That's right.
That's what that really is representing, and foundations. So when we're setting our intent for something, this is part of how we do it. And it just, like I said, doesn't have to be money. It could be whatever it is. And to bring the vision into manifestation, into the reality field itself, and we can, you can mental assent to it all you want. And like I tell, people that, I give readings to and that I work with, you cannot be double-minded about things, because if you're sitting on the fence and you're double-minded, you won't manifest shit. Yeah. You have to be absolutely focused with your consciousness.
Unified.
And there's exercises that you can do to focus your consciousness, if you drop those into your protocols to your daily life, and start streamlining your consciousness to what it is that you're actually wanting to build, you
That's
know?
right. Yeah, man. Clarity. You got to have clarity and
Absolutely.
conviction on your intention and what you're going for, man. It's so important.
Absolutely.
Focus.
Got to be focused with it, because otherwise you're just not going to receive anything. Nothing's ever going to get done. And, it's like we're having this live conversation right now about all of this, and you just never know. I mean, the right person hears something, the right person, is hearing what we're saying, and the next thing it's some type of maven that has influence.
They're
And
activated.
then all of a sudden this starts to streamline back, a boomerang back in context to our vibrational correspondence and what we're actually putting out here, and the energy that's actually represented. This is how we have to start setting our intent, I believe, over the next few years to get things cracking, get things popping,
Powerful, man. I agree with that 100%. And I've had a love-hate relationship with even money alone, and really worked on it within the last couple years. Even 6 years ago when I first started going public, I would never say, "Oh, if you want to donate to my work." I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I was insecure about that aspect. Then, as I worked on myself and that relationship, I started to understand that these resources can springboard my abilities and what I
Right.
wanted to do. And every time I would even ask, even in like a live stream or something, ask someone, hey, if you want to donate, go to my site. I have a donation page. Some donations would come in, and I'm grateful for every donation that I've gotten. And even talents. Someone translated a bunch of my presentations into German.
Yes,
That
there
was
you
like
go.
mind blowing to me. I was
Yes.
super grateful. So that is kind of part of the unification that we need as well. Huge aspect.
Yeah.
It's big, and this is how we have to start thinking, in terms of this type of energy with our own mindset. You
Aquarian.
know, it's very
Oh
Aquarian, man.
yeah.
It's very
Network.
Aquarian.
Network, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because this is where the energies are moving towards. So we've got to transmute and transform with it. Because technically we are the ethers. I mean, we are the energies themselves, as within, as without. So when we're looking at solar spiral of creation, when we're looking at how it's trying to actually work with us to go through the alchemical process and to bring these manifestations into the realm, this is how we do it. This is called high planetary magic. And that's how it works. And all of these arts and gnosis work with that. Tarot, runes, all the way numerology, all the way down the line. And you weave them as a tapestry within yourself to express them for as within, as without, to that vibrational correspondence. And as wizards, as magicians, this is how we're going to take the next step. We're going to drive the narrative to all of this, and it does it take effort? Does it take time? Does it take commitment? All of those things. It takes all of it. Like you said, Logan, you got to give a shit. You got to care about what it is. You got to really care.
Exactly. And to that point, I think powerful leaders is one of the best ways to inspire care into others, because as I was saying earlier,
Damn right.
you cannot force that on someone. All you can do is step up and be that example and show them what's possible. Show them what courage looks like. Show them what true intelligence and wisdom and morality looks like, and then show them that it's possible through your own example. And yeah, I mean, it's the fact that most people are followers, and that's okay. I don't think the goal is to turn everyone into a leader.
Of
I
course
think
not.
as long as we
Yeah.
have enough people like us that are stepping up in a position to be a leader, um, not out of ego or control, but just simply, hey, I'm somebody. Why not me? Hey, instead of looking for a hero or savior, why not me? Let me just put myself out there, and then let that be a message to the give someone else to follow then the people that exist that are not great role models, that are gatekeepers or just useful idiots or whatever the case may be, we need more people stepping up and being something different. Like I was saying earlier, like, oh wait, there's a different option I didn't know was there. Awareness creates choice. So people can't choose an option they didn't know they had. So it takes people like us putting ourselves out there and putting the right information out there and showing people there is another way if you want it, and you can come this way, and we'll embrace you, and we'll support you. That's what it's all about. We need more leaders. We don't need to make everyone leaders. We just need enough people being stepping up
Look,
as leaders to inspire the the masses that
according
are
to
going to
Chiron,
follow.
everyone has a gift.
Mm.
Chiron is the wounded healer, man. It's the gift and it's the wound. See? And when we get past the idea that, you know, um, everyone's just out for themselves and they don't give a shit about anybody else, you know, that's that betrayal wound. That's that pride, that's that betrayal, that's overlaying that gift. See, what your actual gifting is, what your incarnation, what you're here to do, what your gifting is to the work itself. See, this is what you're talking about, Logan. This is where we need to get, because without that, you know, people, they may get into a position where, well, I don't really matter and all this, but it's the leadership that has to recognize this. See, and in some ways, I'll tell you, in some ways, because I was in the church realm a long time and I came out of it. In some ways, they have a line on some of this stuff, like some of the things that they did in context to community and building community within the structure of the church itself was pretty profound. Because looking back at it now, there was a lot of a camaraderie, and then they would delegate, and then they would see people certain gifts, and then they would pull them in to do certain things because they had a gift for it, and they were pretty on that. I mean, there was a bunch of bullshit too, but just from that point of view, when I kind of gazed back at my experience with that, in some ways we can learn from that as going forward here as well, because not everything is just evil and bad when you're talking about your own experiences and going through things. You can garner and glean experiential knowledge from those things, and then apply them to the new version of yourself that's been created, within all of this. So I
Yeah,
think
well
so. I
said.
think these are some of the steps that we're going to be coming into. I really do. I think we're going to grow up, guys. I think we're going to start growing up, like into more maturity as magicians, as mages, as shamans, as all of the stuff that we're really working to accomplish and goals in our own lives.
Yeah, if the care and the willpower is there, mind, heart, hands, it definitely can
Yeah,
happen.
it can.
I'm a realist. I'm also an optimist as well. I see the potentiality and the capacity for that care and willpower to generate real justice and change and course correct, uh, you know, society, and it starts within people's own life, right? And it's like you guys were saying, it's really important to know your own attributes and your own discover your own gift, what you are good at, and or what you love doing, and
Yes.
then how incorporate that into the message of truth and freedom, or any way to create positive change.
Yeah, your gifts are sovereign to your own templating. Why not share them? You know.
Yeah, and anyone who's thinking, "Oh, I don't have a gift," or whatever, the starting point is the gift that everyone has is their individuality,
Mm,
because your superpower is being you, because nobody else can be you.
Exactly, man.
nailed it.
Exactly. And that's
Good
why we
one.
have to know who we are. and diving into these arts of gnosis. I was looking at the word gnosis the other day in the Greek, and the word gnosis in the Greek actually means not just to know thyself, but to experientially know yourself
I
through
love
the
that.
choices that you've made in alignment to truth.
That's powerful, man.
That is powerful because so many people are insecure and are scared to get uncomfortable,
Yes.
right? And
Yep.
that's the whole point of experience. You got to get out, you got to get out of your comfort zone. Get
Yes.
uncomfortable
Yeah.
and try things out. And that's where the real leveling up can happen.
Absolutely, man.
I
Great
love that. I
point.
love that. It's great.
Great point.
Well, is anyone in the audience would like to drop any questions for us? Probably do a few, little Q&A and wrap this up.
Yeah, thanks
But
for the people that joined. I see a lot of names I recognize.
Yeah,
What's up, Nick?
good good convo there with the feed. Yeah.
yeah, this has been amazing, honestly, better than I hoped for. So it feels good to be, back
It's like
on
getting on
YouTube.
stage and playing, man. That you got those butterflies at the beginning, man, but then once you get into the flow of it, man, it's like magic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because you are who you are.
Yes.
We're the magicians. We have the power.
I like that, Nick. You have to hunt
Yeah.
down fear within.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And
I mean, nobody wants to face their pain, right? I mean, that's the ultimate challenge, to embrace that and to face it, and then take full responsibility for where your life is. You know,
Yeah.
that's where the healing really is. That's where it's at.
A question that I've gotten on many interviews, and I always have the same answer, and I only got one kind of, bad response from someone. I got an email saying I was egotistical from my answer. And the question that I always get is, if you could change one thing from your past, what would it be? And my answer is, I wouldn't change anything.
Yes.
But I also caveat that with, but I haven't, harmed anyone, like, took someone's life, or
Right.
sure, I've, been out of integrity. I've lied. I've stole, but I haven't hurt anyone drastically. But all my failures in my past, I learned from to get me where I am now. And obviously I have lots of growth to do. So I don't, that question has came up a lot, and I'm just, even if something horrible happened, where are you at now? Was the
Yes.
lesson learned is I think critical. So yeah, that just kind of came into my mind from.
You can't take those experiences away without taking the lessons with it, and those are
Exactly.
gold.
Great. Yeah.
Wouldn't
Right.
trade that for anything.
True. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to have a little bit of pliability for yourself, because that's where your consciousness was when you made that choice. And
Exactly.
even though maybe it was in ignorance or whatever, of course you're gonna make if you're really truly seeking truth and trying to really integrate it, you're going to resolve that karmic aspect at some point. The ignorance won't be there anymore, and
Yep.
then you're going to flip the energies, and then they're going to work with you.
Yeah, it's the law of correspondence. Basically, it's like you're like, say, relationships. You're going to keep manifesting a certain type of relationship because it's matching where you're at in your consciousness.
Right.
And if you keep having these toxic relationships, it's because you hadn't learned the lesson yet. And then once you finally do, you change the frequency, and then you are creating something different. But if you go back,
Right.
It's a futile idea to even think about, like going back and not having those painful experiences, because that was exactly what you needed at the time to actually learn the lesson. These kinds of questions really just highlight people not really truly understanding how reality works and what its purpose is. Like these, if you could just push a button and change anything in the world, like what would it be? And it's like, but you can't do something like that without actually, because everything that is the way it is now, currently, is that way for a reason. So if you say just, oh, I'd push a button and made government disappear, well, unless you change the mindset that created that in the first place, then it's just going to have another one in its place right away.
Yeah.
And if you could say, like, push a button and suddenly everybody just understood natural law or something like that, like, well, that's probably a pretty good answer, actually. But even then, well, then you'd be robbing people of the journey to arrive to those realizations themselves, which is the spiritual experience in and of itself. Who am I to push a button and take that away from people? It's the same as, Jesus saving people with his actions instead of people earning their own salvation. It's
Hmm.
it's insulting. I wouldn't do that to someone.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
point.
that's how religion works, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
spiritual welfare is what I call it,
Spiritual welfare.
which is the perfect term because that's the same exact thing. If you're constantly giving out free money to people that are poor and struggling, then sure, you might be helping them temporarily, but in the long term, you're actually enabling them to
Yeah,
just be dependent on you and not suffer long enough to say, you know what, I'm tired of this. I actually need to, like, go create some value and, get a job or start a business or something.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, when we're looking at that type of energy, it still drives into victim mentality, and until you get past that, I mean, I remember the day, man, that I looked in the mirror and I literally, and it was one of the darkest days of my fucking life. And I looked into the mirror and I looked at myself and I says, I put myself here. And that was the day that I took full responsibility for where I was at, the condition of my physical and mental body, and literally uh, came up out of all of the victim mentality, or started to shed that and transmute that energy and burn it to the fucking ground. I remember that day, and that was the turning point for me personally, when I wasn't lying to myself anymore, and I took full responsibility for where I was at. That was the day I really believed that healing started to have its pulse within me.
Oh man, that just gave me kind of chills having a flashback on a very similar moment for me. It was the catalyst, the beginning, the initiation of my
Yes,
healing process coming
yes,
off of opiates, where I was
yes,
ignoring the responsibility and then looking in the mirror at myself and then saying that, making that choice. It was like it was the first step forward onto that path.
absolutely.
And that was a huge, huge catalyst. That was the beginning for me,
Yep.
100%. Um, so yeah, I thought about that when you were sharing that. That was
Gotta
great.
face the mirror, man. You gotta face the mirror.
Mm.
You know, it was interesting because I was looking in the mirror every morning when I was, spun off of opiates. I still was going to work. My friends didn't know. My
Yeah,
family didn't know. It was all
sure.
in my head,
Yeah,
purgatory, all in my
yeah,
head and
yep.
my heart. And every morning I was looking in the mirror and I was literally telling myself, fuck, this might be the day that I die. I OD or something. I was such in a fear state. And then
Yeah,
as soon as I started changing my thinking and my perspective on myself and taking that responsibility and accountability, everything started changing. So
where
it
it
was
changes,
powerful.
man. It's where
Yeah,
the rubber meets the road, man, and that's where you make the choice that you're never looking back. You're not going back.
that's right.
You're going to go forward, and you're going to do it, and it doesn't matter how much it hurts or how uncomfortable it gets. That's what a warrior does,
Mm.
and it doesn't matter, who's against you, who's for you. You got to find your seventh gate. You got to find your balance and your harmony within your own self to open the gates of transformation. And that's where it starts, is looking at the mirror gate itself.
That's great.
And
Yeah, man.
yeah, it's like to the same point. If a lesson is learned truly, like you said, you're not going back. That means you actually learn the lesson. If you
Yes.
relapse, you didn't truly learn it, or else you wouldn't have done
Right.
that.
Yeah.
You didn't heal the underlying wound that was compelling that behavior to cause you to go down that path, you know?
Well, Dan,
And
the suffering gets so bad sometimes that you're just like, why am I doing this to myself? You know?
yeah,
Got a couple questions here we can
Cool.
address. First one, Nick Marshall. What is the biggest lie about yourself or reality that you're clinging on to? Well, if I knew, I would be actively working on it. That is the way I operate, is I'm constantly seeking anomalies and inconsistencies, and as soon as I recognize one, I go into it. I really contemplate it, I feel into it, and resolve it. So I stay pretty clean. My garden stays pretty clean of weeds like that, because as soon as I see one, I try to yank it up. So I would say the biggest, what I would have to look back at, like the last one for me was probably the biggest recent paradigm shift, which was a few years ago, was just the conversation of polarity and the embodiment of the masculine energy as a man, and not just this sort of new age idea of we all have masculine and feminine energies inside us and we need to balance them, which is true to a degree, but it's not like a 50-50 flowy, some days you're fit. I mean, that's like gender fluid crap. That's not I don't think that that's actually in alignment with natural law and
Yeah,
our
Hermetics doesn't
biology.
support that fact.
Our biology says otherwise. Our
Yes.
instinct says otherwise. And I had to really do a lot of shadow work and say, to recognize that I had been emasculating myself. It was a big reason that my last, relationship at that time had
Yeah.
not been successful, and I had to take ownership for all of that shit. So, I mean, that's the best I got for that answer. That was kind of the big last major one for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll speak on that, and it's something that I'm actively coming out of, and I wouldn't really, say it's a big lie, but the last few years, I was kind of in a refusal state of the external work, meaning the community aspect, which we've talked a lot about this in this conversation, and I do think there is a balance. The polarizing aspect of where I was is that it is 100% online content. And although, yes, that is a huge aspect, there is, because you're still, when you come offline, you're still living in the world, right? You're still shopping at the
Right.
stores.
Yeah.
You're using money. You either have a bank account or you're going cash. You're interacting with society. So you can't ignore that. And so I'm leaning to that it is, having that external community, putting effort and energy into building or affecting change, and really not necessarily. I mean, sure, you could focus on your local community. I'm looking at it more of building something new or uniting with people. Again, in the beginning stages, but I think that's a huge aspect. Something like what Derek Brose is doing and John Bush. I think that's really important. That's one piece of the puzzle, right? You have to
Yeah.
have the internal and external. It is about speaking the information out into the ethers, and it's also about creating community, right? The exit and build strategy. So
Yeah.
it's definitely both of those simultaneously, I think, is really important. And I was
Yeah.
definitely polarized the last few years on that, thinking it was just one way. And especially in this time with this transition, and it's definitely going to get pretty brutal. I think it's important that we have that connection, even offline, in the actual real world, in our local environments.
Yeah, yeah. I think my biggest thing was comparing myself to others. This was something that I really, being a kind of a Taurus sun, I am a Taurus sun. Um, just looking at somebody doing something better than me or whatever, and then getting really discouraged about that because of my own self worth, and not being able to cultivate that self worth to a high level, you know. And I think the thing that healed me about that was, um, somebody recognized it that was a mentor of mine, and he said to me, he says, "You do it for yourself. You do what you do because of who you are and for yourself. When we're putting out content, it doesn't matter, if I get 1,000 likes or 10 likes, you're doing it in balance and harmony to your own self, and then realizing that self-worth, that comparing yourself to others is in the shadow aspect of just of lack of self-worth, of lack of self-validation. See? And so once it clicked, I flipped the script and started validating myself in context to what I was doing and where I was. And this really changed a lot of, I got to be honest, the first time I started doing like videos and stuff, I was scared. I was like thinking to myself, God, I hope people like them. I hope people will enjoy these. And there's nothing wrong with wanting that, but not the way that it was hitting me. I was kind of lying to myself in that way. Like I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't this, or I wasn't that. And those are also lies to yourself, see, in context to that. So, this was really debilitating to me, even growing up as a kid and stuff. I had to, work through that, when I started doing, like putting out content. And I think there's probably other people that may even be in that position now that are listening to this, because they're like, well, I don't really, I don't really know that much, or I don't really, have a good voice, or I don't have this. You can make all the excuses you want to in the world. But the fact of the matter is that take pride in doing it for who you are and do your best. And then you will get better every time that you do it. And every time that you start to level up, you're going to get better and better and better to the point where you're going to master it. But again, if you never take the step to do it because you're defeated by your comparison to others or your lack of self-worth or self-validation, then you're never going to go anywhere anyway, And so this was one of my biggest, toughest things that I had to deal with,
All right, one more question, and then I think I'm pretty tired, ready to wrap this up. So Nick Haslam says, thoughts on potential upcoming upheaval, billionaires building bunkers, governments not intends to fix things, quantum encryption, breakthrough energy hidden behind nuclear, potential CMEs, blackouts. Well, that's quite the question.
All of it. All of
yeah.
its potential.
Yes.
What can you do? I mean, you can't stop that. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You got to prepare your soul first, your mind and your soul. And then if there's any time left after that, stock up on canned beans and bullets and all that stuff.
Well,
Nothing wrong with building an arsenal, man, having weapons. I mean,
oh yeah, dude.
Nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that,
absolutely. Absolutely. When I first started making videos, I was calling myself a prepper and a propagator, right?
Yeah.
I'm all about preparedness, and then I propagate natural law and morality, the information. And I'm still that way. I have, a full supply. I have tons of ammo. I have tons of survival gear. I like to learn skills and practice them, out in nature. And I think that's important. And that's why I'm kind of coming back to that balance of, doing work in either my local area, getting some type of land, etc. I think that's important because all of that on that list is potential, and it's very important not to be in a fear state of the potentialities, right? But you know that there it could go both ways, right? The intentional breakdown of society can be self-induced by our own ignorance. It can also be intentional to try to hinder or set back consciousness on the collective level. I mean, even if you think about, let's just say, the aggregate of humans start really waking up, they'll pull that lever, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh
they
yeah.
will end civilization. I mean, the grid. I mean, send people all the way back hundreds of years to, one, create that trauma and the knowledge of survival, and those skill sets. If they're not in place, it'll weave out people, and just the collective level of consciousness will go to a survival mode, right? Back to base level. That, I think, is absolutely a potentiality. In fact, I mean, I think that's happened before in
It has happened
distant
before.
history.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
So with that being said, being prepared, having certain skill sets are important. Don't put all your chips on that. That's why, I have the emphasis of having both of those dynamics, speaking truth out to a large population, creating that content, and then also, having the real world skill sets.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, just like you said, just be prepared. Like what was the old thing? I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. I mean, this is part of how we are preparing our own minds. I mean, who knows what's going to happen. But like you said, these dark ass occultists, these vampiric vampires, whatever you want to hell call them, their cosmic ass is on the line. But this is really what we're dealing with. I mean, they're on it. They're on it 24/7, and their ass is on the line here, because basically their source of energy is the human race. When it comes down to it, when you were talking about the egregores and all that earlier in the podcast,
Yeah.
this is what we're dealing with. Because they have no connection to the higher force. They have no connection to source energy itself. They've been cut off from that by their choice. So they don't want to regenerate. They don't want to go through the process of actually making transformation. They're looking at artificial intelligence to do that for them. Context to what's coming up on the timeline for review. Their cosmic asses are on the line here. This is the war that we're in on consciousness.
Right.
And so this is the type of energy that they've got access to. So you can't be afraid of it, and you can't be fearful of it. You just have to continue to do your own personal work and be as much of a maven and influence to others as you can. And then build that community, build something, man. Doesn't matter. Nobody can control the events of September 10th. They're going to spin it however they're going to spin it. So don't get loosed out by it.
That's right. Loosed out. It's harvest season, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, it's harvest season.
It is.
And they're collecting. Chris Jansen makes a great point about and learning to use weapons, right?
Yeah.
And sorry, Logan, I'll just say this one thing and I'll let you go on it. A huge part of this is the relationship that we have with our children, right? And there's certain aspects, even in this current time, conversations and topics that you can have with your kids, situational awareness, correlated thinking, critical thinking, like these conversations of what this is, and that's on top of morality, rights, polarization, etc. But even the skill sets and the survival skills and functioning in the natural world, this knowledge needs to be, within the next generation, 100%.
Yep, exactly, man. We got to set the foundations for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, good stuff.
Great. Yeah, this was super powerful. Just all around conversation. We kind of started in the dark, and I think just we've hit on a lot of really positive, uplifting messages, and I hope that everyone else is feeling that, because we need that. We need to lift each other up, and you know,
Yes.
not not just get caught in the mire of the negativity and all of that. So that is my intention with this broadcast. I feel that we've been successful in that, of just kind of sharing an uplifting message and some positivity and some hope, right? It's not all as bad as it looks, and just focus on yourself and doing what you can, and let go of the rest of what you can't control, and stay in your power, stay in your magic. And I want to thank you two fine gentlemen for joining me tonight as well. You guys brought a lot of amazing points and beautiful wisdom and insights. So much love to you, my brothers. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, like the video, please. Don't forget to check out the wizardfactory.com. Sign up for the initiation package. There's the free rune course if you'd like to check that out as well. And it's great to see some familiar faces in the chat as well. And just one last note before I go, y'all probably noticed I am taking a break. I've not quit. I've not disappeared. I've not ghosted you. I will be back. I'm just working on some other things, and I've already got a few videos kind of on the back burner that I'll be working on and putting out here. But that's kind of part of it. We this is the long game. I'm not going anywhere, and if I need to take a few months off, then I will, because when I come back, I'll be excited, I'll be inspired, I'll be fresh, and that's what you guys want. You want me at my best, and that's what I'm gonna take care of myself. You know, so stick around. Thanks for your patience. Much love to everyone, and I'll see you around the interwebs soon. But until next time, as always, be empowered, inspired, and encouraged. Peace out.